Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I just reread Primogenitor by Josh Reynolds and by the Omnissiah's Adamantine Balls. Chaos Apothecaries are awesome. Like as if Dr. House and Dr. Frankenstein had a baby that then got turned into a genetically enhanced super soldier, but more on those later. The premise is as follows. An apothecary by the name of Oleander shows up to Fabius's doorstep with an offer that seems too good to be true. An Eldar craft world ripe for the taking, and all Fabius has to do is invent a way to hide their war presence long enough to set up an ambush. Fabius agrees, and together with his Glandhounds, a breed of superhumans created to hunt down space marines, and a select team of allies, they go on a quest to attack the craft world. Now, of course, life is never easy in Warhammer, and not only does Bile have to try and salvage enough members of the depraved Third Legion, but also he has to deal with the elusive Harlequins who start messing with his plans. Will Fabius manage to gather all the necessary components to pull off the heist? And what in Slaaneish's name are the Harlequins up to? Well, if you want to know that, you'll have to read this blast of a novel. As always with Josh Reynolds, the best thing about this novel is the characterization. From the big Fabius himself to the most insignificant side character. All of them have some personality, and I actually find it rather difficult to find a favorite. Maybe I would pick Sagara, a word-bearer warlock who was sent by the Dark Council to put an end to Fabius Bile's godless life. Evidently he failed, and after waking up with a multitude of bombs implanted in all of his major organs, he is now forced to serve the Manflayer. Sagara is the Chaos version of a strict nun, and constantly criticizes the decadence and godlessness of the Emperor's children. His constant stream of insults, along with an endless supply of sarcastic comments, provided some much-needed comic relief to the darker scenes of the novel. Or what about Zemikes, an Iron Warrior apothecary who speaks in sign language and refuses to express himself verbally? A marine reminiscent of the engineer from Team Fortress 2 as he stands back proudly while his small army of biomechanical warsuits destroy everyone in their path. He too is often the provider of comic relief, albeit a lot more slapsticky than Sagara's sassy sarcasm. And yes, of course, and finally there is Fabius Bile himself, a man of many paradoxes. He is one of the most intelligent men in this setting, yet at times utterly delusional. He is the reason why the Third is currently as it is, yet also their greatest critic. A doctor with a grand vision to create a better humanity, yet whose body is constantly failing him because of the blight gene flaw. In this novel, Reynolds takes one of the most one-dimensional mustache twirlers and turns him into a character with so much depth it becomes hard to describe what he actually is. Another thing that I really liked about this novel is that it has an actual theme. Similar to the Nightlord books by ADB, the main character hates the depraved state of their legion and regrets how far they have fallen. There is a certain melancholy to Fabius every time he is faced with another depravity, which he is at least partially responsible for. Because forget not, he is the one who started the Noise Marine experiments, created the combat stims, and basically introduced the Third's obsession with fleshcraft. Throughout this book, he repeatedly comes face to face with the end result of his project, and well, he really doesn't like what he sees. Just as with the Nightlords trilogy, these Fallen Angel vibes add a lot more depth to the Chaos Astartes. This team actually plays quite a major role in other parts of the book as well, but sadly I can talk about that without spoilers. Oh, and of course I should also talk about the Harlequins, because they absolutely rock in this novel. The clowns are as weird and wacky as you might expect, but at the same time they are also one of the scariest things in this book, constantly in the background, scheming, laughing and chittering. Reynolds does a great job at showcasing the MO of this mysterious faction, but on top of that, they also just have a lot of flair, and in a way reminded me of Jhin from League of Legends. A Harlequin will not just shoot you, no, he'll do a backflip pirouette into a 360 no-scope, after which he'll perform an elaborate bow at your corpse while cackling like a maniac. They provided some kick-ass action scenes, but also fitted very nicely into the plot, as their presence becomes more and more relevant the longer the story goes on. Not to mention that you will slowly but surely start to see how all of their weird antics put them a step closer to achieving their mysterious goal, in the end resulting in a somewhat surprising but extremely satisfying finale. The only real downside this novel has for me is that for all its uniqueness, the plot is actually quite basic. Guy wants to do a heist, goes to someone to help him get stuff for the heist, they get stuff for the heist, and then they attempt said heist. There is some spice in regards to the Harlequins, but otherwise there is little going on in terms of side stories or twists. That being said though, I loved this novel on my first read and I liked it even more after my second. So unsurprisingly, this one gets a very well deserved 5 out of 5 Gregory Houses. Primogenitor is a very fun heist story with an amazing set of characters. The portrayal of both the Emperor's children as well as the Harlequins was excellent, both in terms of story as well as in action scenes. All of it topped off by an amazing portrayal of Fabius Bile that turns him into one of the most interesting characters in the setting. Needless to say, this is an absolute must-read for all Chaos fans, as well as fans of the creepy elf clown. I'd say that I'd buy a physical copy as well, but I already have it in paper twice now, so that would be a lie. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Have a nice evening, the book's linked down below, and don't forget your nightly prayers to Nagash.